Last time we finished at chapter 20, page 22. So we finished at chapter 20. So today we should start with chapter 21 or section 21. Subhuti, do not say that the Tathagata thinks, I must expound the Dharma. Do not have such a thought. Why? Because if someone said so, he will really slander the Buddha and be unable to understand any teaching or my teaching. Subhuti, when the Tathagata expounds the Dharma, there is really no Dharma to teach, but this is expediently called teaching the Dharma. Now let's explain those two paragraphs. When ordinary beings, for example, when ordinary beings are teaching something, before he teaches, his mind would think. Anybody who teach, a professor, a lecturer who teach, when he's teaching, he must be thinking. He must, for example, think in his mind that I'm going to say this. I'm going to organize in this way. I'm going to analyze in this way. I'm going to differentiate and discriminate in this way, and I am going to bring it out like that. This is my form of presentation. When you're teaching, you've got something to say. When you've got something to say, you must have form. You must have certain conceptual dimensions in your mind. So in other words, the Buddha, or anyone who teaches, he is using his mind to organize in such a way. Now, that's the mind he's using. What mind is that he's using? What is that mind? He's using, like your mind, like my mind, the delusionary mind, the unreal mind. The mind that we are using is not the real mind. Well, that's a powerful mind, of course, per se, that's a powerful mind, but that is the unreal mind. Why is that the unreal mind? The mind that a professor, a tutor, you, me, teaching, that is not the unreal mind. Why? Because that real mind is always what? Is always full of bias, full of bigotry, full of influences of your background, your education, your acquired knowledge. That's the mind that we've got. And sometimes that mind is full of anger, jealousy, hatred, envy, disappointment, fear, depression, you name them. That's the mind that we're using to teach. When we're teaching, of course, we're not doing evil deeds. We're teaching, we're imparting something onto the listeners. It depends on what you're imparting onto. If you're imparting onto something evil, you're creating evil cause. If you're imparting something that is meritorious, that is beneficial, you're doing something good. But our mind, the mind that we're using is like that. So here it said, Subhuti, do not say that when the Buddha is saying something, he forms that in the Buddha's mind. Because when the Buddha starts to teach, in his mind, he would not think, I'm teaching the Dharma. I am the speaker. You're the listeners. I'm going to impart to you all this knowledge. I'm going to give you all this. He's not thinking in his mind. Why? Logically, how can the Buddha be using the unreal mind to teach? The Buddha's mind is free, is liberated, is pure. That pure mind has got nothing. That pure mind delves on nothing. Nothing touches or affects the Buddha's mind. So the Buddha would not think when he's teaching, I have something to teach. I am teaching this Dharma. This is my Dharma. He won't do that like that. So if you say that, oh, the Buddha has a Dharma to teach, you are slandering the Buddha. You think that the Buddha is like a sentient being, like our mind. You're maligning the Buddha. You see the meaning of that sentence? That's what it means. Because you think that the Buddha is just like you and me. He has something to teach. You think that But the Buddha's mind does not attach. His mind dwells nowhere. All dharmas are completely empty, and all names and words are provisional and based entirely on emptiness. Of course, you've got to know what emptiness means. First-time comers may not know because there's a definition of emptiness. Emptiness does not mean nothing. It does not mean that. It has a profound meaning in emptiness. So if you think that, oh, the Buddha has a Dharma to teach, I have the Dharma to listen to, that you are maybe inadvertently thinking that the Buddha is like us. He's got something in his mind, and I am, of course, myself. I'm acquiring. The Buddha is teaching. I'm acquiring. You are doing this subject and object attachment again. Do you see the point? I'm sure the people who come here and listen all the time, you know my point. For example, when we become angry, and if we immediately come to a realization and see the emptiness of such anger, then we see the nature of the anger. Then the anger is no longer a mental affliction, no longer an obstacle to us, no longer a danger to us. If you see anger as an obstacle, it's a danger. If you see anger as empty, then it's not an obstacle anymore. If you see a flower, and if you see the non-flower elements of that flower, then you can safely use that word flower. Otherwise, that word flower is provisional, it's fallacious, it's just a name. If you see the emptiness of the flower, you know the nature of the flower. So when you see everything and see its nature, everything is not an obstacle. Then there's no mental affliction. When you get angry, you're attached to anger. You argue, you fight, you yell, you do whatever possible to express that anger. But however, if you immediately see the emptiness of that anger, where does that anger come from? Does it have its real essence? Oh, that anger comes from my brother misplaced my book and I couldn't find it. And why did my brother misplace my book? Because I put it somewhere, and then I used to put it on my bed, and then the book is in the way of his sleeping position, and he just removed it because I just throw it on his side of the bed. So if you start to analyze it, that anger is a conglomeration of causes. It doesn't have its real nature. You break it down. You break down the ice. You're like an icebreaker. Here's an obstacle of an iceberg in front of you. You use that truck and you break it through. You break the anger. You see the emptiness of the anger. It's the anger, if you turn it around, it's a blessing in disguise. It's something to get you enlightened. So suffering is enlightenment, enlightenment is suffering. It's one coin with two sides. But how many people see the nature of anger when they're angry? They're being led away. They only expressed it by what? By emotional expression. They jump around, they yell, they fight, they throw things around. And I've heard a boy in the family, when he got angry, he threw things at the TV. They already replaced 5 TVs at home. That's how he expressed his anger. Some people express his anger by hurting other people violently. The same with hatred. Some people express hatred by hatred. Some people express violence by violence. But if you're able to break through it, you're on your way to the Buddha's teaching. When we see hatred and see that hatred is not hatred, then we know that that hatred is truly hatred. You know what I mean? When you see the hatred is not hatred, then we know hatred is truly hatred. When we see that Dharma is no Dharma, when we see Dharma, we see the true Dharma, then that hatred is no longer a dangerous obstacle anymore. We break it through. How many people can break it through? I can break it through if I'm analyzing it using emptiness. When I forget about emptiness, I get angry. You practice and practice until when the anger comes, you immediately break it through. For some people, when anger comes, it's like the ice. They found that iceberg. They've been fed up by that iceberg. And then they go home, they look for the car. There's a time lag in between. You can't break your anger immediately. You still yell, you still shout. You still want to fight, you still want to argue. But afterwards, you think about it, you ponder about it, and you feel remorseful. You feel that you shouldn't have done it. Sometimes that could be too late. To some people, he expressed his anger by hurting other people. He committed the crime of hurting, the crime of killing. And then he becomes remorseful. He feels sinful and guilty, but that's too late. So the practice depends on how immediate can you break through that ice. Bodhisattvas come to an immediate realization of any obstacle in front. We sentient beings, sometimes it may be too late. But being too late is better than not knowing it. For some people, they committed something wrong and they don't even know about it. They don't even feel guilty about it. They don't even know that's a mistake. Some people keep on shoplifting. They never know that is illegal. They just keep on doing it until one day they got caught. A more clever person, after doing it for a few months, he come to realization, oh, this is something not right. I would stop. An even more clever person would immediately know after the first act. The wise person would never have done it. So it depends on the level of enlightenment. How enlightened are you? So everybody has different levels. Every person has different karma level. So that's why we're all different. Why are we going through the lot that we have gone through? Because of what you have done. Your karma brought you here. Your karma, brought you to what you have experienced. That's why everybody is different. Some are healthy, some are unhealthy, some are rich, some are poor. No one is the same. No two persons have the same, if we can call fate. No two persons have the same fate. Not even twins. I already mentioned that all the time. So, think about this. If we think that the Buddha thinks like us, that means the Buddha is teaching and has something to teach. Then the Buddha in our mind is like a sentient being who is unenlightened. When we teach, we differentiate. When we teach, we differentiate. There is a communication. There is the teacher, the student. There is the I, the you, the me, and them. When we have this conceptual dimensions of me, ego, you, I, and if that still exists, then you're still attached to the fallacious notion of, remember in the Diamond Sutra, ego, personality, beings, and continuity. You still attach to that. Because if you think you have a Dharma to teach, or you just think that you have the Dharma to obtain, We still attach to that ego. You see how logical the thinking is? If the Buddha said, our mind is unreal mind, and if you think that the Buddha teaches like what we're teaching, we have the Dharma in the mind to teach, what are we using to teach? Our mind that has conceptual dimension, that has a language, that have words. We speak because we have a language because we have words, we have names. And what did the Buddha teach? This is all names, all words, all languages, all language. Are these not conceptual dimensions? And the Buddha said, if you ask that question, you're intelligent. And let me tell you, I have nothing to teach. Don't rely on this. I have nothing to teach. You have nothing to listen to. You see the point? If you think that the Buddha has something to teach, that means the Buddha has an acquired knowledge. The Buddha has obtained something. And you still have the subject and object attachment. So, you see those two paragraphs? That's exactly what it means. When the Buddha is teaching, he wouldn't have this in your mind, I have something to say, I have something to teach you, you've got to listen, this is good for you. He wouldn't have that in his mind, because he's teaching from the pure mind. He's just expediently called that Dharma, because if you don't call it something, what do you call it with? He just expediently used that medium of communication, that is the language, the words, to impart to you what he wants to say. But in his mind, it's all pure. See that point? So how did the wise Subhuti answer the Buddha's question? That's a difficult question to answer. But before Subhuti hesitated, the Buddha answered for him in the next paragraph, the third paragraph. He says, when the Tathagata teaches the Dharma, there is really no Dharma to teach. That's why it is called a Dharma. This is called teaching the Dharma. It seems paradoxical. It is not. It's just people don't understand it. They think it is paradoxical. Then let us get a closer look at this from two perspectives. Again, that's why I said if we can finish these two paragraphs in 45 minutes, it's sufficient for today. Let's take a look at it again in detail from two perspectives. One is from the Buddha's perspective, the speaker's perspective, and the other is from the listener's perspective. When the Buddha is teaching the Dharma, there is really no Dharma that he's teaching, because his mind is not differentiating, it's not discriminating, not organizing, not judging, not biasing like sentient beings. His mind is pure and free from all. He is speaking just because he wants to express it for sentient being to understand. He himself has no thought, not a trace of impurity. His mind is empty of all things. How can then he still maintain that idea he has a Dharma to teach? So that's from the speaker's perspective. His mind is all clear. So there's nothing to teach. There's no listeners. There's no speaker. The Dharma in terms of words or language is just for expression, just for teaching. To the Buddha's mind, no attachment. Why do we become sentient beings and get into path of reincarnation? Because we have attachment. We cling to appearances. We cling to forms. So all these conceptual dimensions are not the real mind. The real mind has no subject, no object. The real mind is free and pure. In order to express it, we say the real mind is empty. So remember what the Heart Sutra says? We just read the Heart Sutra, and I can repeat it in here, just to remind you. We just chanted the Heart Sutra. The Heart Sutra said, the emptiness of all things is neither created nor does it perish. neither pure nor impure, neither decreasing or increasing. That's exactly what it means. Therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, nor perception, nor volition, nor consciousness. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, or object of mind. No realm of the eyes up to no realm of consciousness. No ignorance up to no old age and death, nor the extinction. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no extinction, no path, no wisdom, and also no attainment, because there is no object to be obtained. There's nothing to be obtained. This, the Heart Sutra just mentioned, yes, the Buddha expounded the Four Noble Truths. What's the Four Noble Truths? Suffering, causes of suffering, cessation of suffering, and nirvana. So in here we say there is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no extinction, no path. It does not mean that there is no Four Noble Truths. It means that the real mind, it does not come out from the real mind. The real mind is pure, and yet it has to come out. It comes out from the unreal mind. But if nothing comes out, how can sentient beings be benefited by it? So that's why it's affirmation of the Dharma, and then there's a negation of it to tell you that all that is from the unreal mind. Do you know about the unreal mind? Or you stick to your unreal mind? You still live by your unreal mind? Some commentators compare the Dharma taught by the Buddha to a mirror. A mirror reflects without any intention to do so. You come to a mirror, the mirror does not intend to reflect you. The mirror reflects you, but the mirror has no intention to reflect you, because the mirror is pure. And also the mirror has no attachment as to what is being reflected. You come to it, it's just reflected. This is how the Buddha teaches without teaching. The Buddha has no intention, has no impurity. The Buddha does not differentiate what is the images on the mirror. It's one pure reflectability. Now, that's what it means by this paragraph. From the perspective of the speaker. The speaker, it doesn't come from the speaker's unreal mind. It's from the truth. But yet, he has to speak about it. In other words, remember we said the Buddha has three bodies. The first body is Dhammakaya, the second is Sambhogakaya, and the third is Nimanakaya. So in the Chinese language, the first is Fa Shen Dhammakaya, the second is Bao Shen Sambhogakaya, the third is Ying Hua Shen Nimanakaya. Now, Dhammakaya, the Dhamma body, is thoughtless. It has nothing in it. So it says nothing and it teaches nothing. It expresses nothing. How can the formless express form? It accommodates form, but it doesn't express in form. But when the Buddha is teaching, he's using the Nimanakaya, the transformation form, not the Dhammakaya, and not the Sambhogakaya, because we sentient beings, we cannot see the Sambhogakaya. Only high-level bodhisattvas can see the Sambhogakaya. The Sambhogakaya is the reward body of the Buddha. We can't see them. We don't have the ability to see them. But bodhisattvas can see them. Avalokitesvara can see them. Siddhagapa bodhisattva can see the Buddha's Sambhogakaya. Or maybe arahats can see the Sambhogakaya, not us. We only can see the Buddha's Nimanakaya, the transformation body. What is that transformation body? That is the body reincarnated in this world historically 2,600 years ago. Sakyamuni Buddha. He was a prince born in India. He left his palace, went and became an ascetic, practiced, and he got enlightenment. That is the transformation body that we can see. And that body he uses to preach, to teach. So we're talking about teaching here of the nirvana body. But here, the Buddha reminds us, the Dharma body has nothing to teach. Because the Dharma body is thoughtless. If the Dharma body has something to teach, it's not right. The Dharma body has nothing to teach because it's one pure reflectability. If the mirror said, I have something to reflect, you come to me and I reflect you, the mirror has attachment. The mirror does not need to say he has something to reflect. He already has that nature of reflectability. Anything comes in, he just reflects it. But being the mirror with attachment, the mirror with jealousy, hatred, disappointment, depression, anger, all these mental afflictions, the mirror said, here, come in there or here, let me reflect you. He does not need that because he has that reflectability. But this poor guy, he does not know. He still thinks that he reflects, he attaches the attachments. Okay, that's from the perspective of the speaker. Now, how about from the perspective of the listeners, that there is no Dharma to listen to? Because there's no Dharma to be taught, there's no teaching. From the listener's perspective, how do we perceive it? When we are learning and practicing, like what we're practicing now, we're doing meditation, we're chanting, we are carrying out good conduct, we're observing morality, we're being a good person, we're learning and we're practicing. We're the listeners or the readers, we're the objects. The Dharma teachers or the books, we think that's the subject. The Dharma is expressed in words, in the language that we understand. In our mind, we still have the conceptual dimensions of learning and listening and differentiating and discriminating and contemplating. But if we consistently practice according to the Buddha's teaching, we may gradually or we may finally come close to a realization if we practice like that. Of course, we attach to language, to names, to form, to the philosophy, to the teaching, but as we practice more and more and more, we will finally come to a realization. We'll come to a realization of that true reality. The time will come. Why? Because we have sown these seeds of enlightenment. Right now, you already have those seeds now. When the time is ripe, you practice, the realization will come true. It depends on whether you apply the efforts. Maybe in this life, you come to the temple, you listen, and then you go out again, and then you never come back again. That seed has been planted in you. But because you don't practice it, you just carry on reincarnating and reincarnating, life after life after life. You go through all this suffering, and one day, you go to another temple, you see the Buddha statue and say, oh, it seems that I've been here before. How come it radiates graciousness to me? How come I feel peaceful? Well, how come when I come to the temple, I feel peaceful? Because that seed in you that you have sown in your previous life cycles, all of a sudden reminds you. You've been here before. It reminds you. When it reminds you, that is equivalent to water sprinkling onto the plant. The sun shines onto the plant. It gets sprout. It slowly comes up, slowly comes up. So you see the importance of sowing seeds, which is sow seeds not only in ourselves, we help all sentient beings to sow seeds. Certainly your family members. You utter a word of wisdom to them, a word of Amitabha or Sakyamuni Buddha or Siddhartha Bodhisattva or a mantra to them. And they learn a word, they learn Om Mani Padme Hum. That's been planted in them. Does not matter when that plant will gradually develop. That seed will sprout into a shooting. and then it become a tree, and then bear fruits and flowers. It will come. So we should plant seeds in everybody. The more seeds you plant, the more meritorious your deed will be. So that's why Bodhisattvas are planting seeds of compassion to everybody, to all sentient beings. So the true mind has no conceptual dimensions. But when we learn and practice, we need conceptual dimensions. Through meditation of samatha and vipassana, we come to realization of emptiness. And we will realize that there's nothing to be attained or nothing that we have obtained. Because it's emptiness. In the Mahaprajna Paramita Sutra, there is a story like this. And I like to end it with a story because the gong will go in a few minutes. In Mahaprajna Paramita Sutra, Da Bore Jing, there's a story like this. Subhuti, the person mentioned in the Arahat mentioned in there, was renowned for teaching the philosophy of emptiness. 解空第一. He's the number one saint in promoting emptiness because he fully understands it. That's the reason why he's always appear in the Diamond Sutra, because he understands emptiness the most, the best. So Subhuti was renowned for teaching the philosophy of emptiness, and he's always teaching it. He was always going out, after alms round, after listening to the Buddha's lecture, then he himself went out to promote emptiness, letting people know about emptiness, non-attachment. And one day while he was teaching, the king of one of the 6 heavens of Kamadhatu, because we have 6 heavens in Kamadhatu. You know Kamadhatu? For people who haven't listened to Buddhism, you may not know. Kamadhatu is the world of desires that we're living in. We have desires of, like, for example, food, sex, and sleep, and we have desire for reputation, for wealth, all these desires. In this Kamadhatu, we only occupy certain level of existence. There are other levels of existence in heaven. We have the 6 heavens, and one of the heavens is called the Sacro Devam heaven, or the Sakra heaven. And the king of that heaven control this world, the desire world. So one day, Subhuti was teaching the king of one of the 6 heavens of Kamadhatu. It's called the Sakra Devanam, or simply the king of Sakra heaven. Heard his teaching and was so touched and so impressed by Subhuti's teaching of emptiness. So he descended from heaven with all the other followers. He had a whole retinue of followers following him, all the guardian angels following him. So he was so happy with Subhuti's explanation of emptiness that it descended from heaven with a whole retinue of followers. And he instructed the guardian angels to scatter flowers, frequent flowers from heaven, onto Subhuti and all the ground surrounding, scattering flowers. And when Subhuti asked the king of heaven why he was doing this, at that time the listeners couldn't see the king of heaven. Only Subhuti could see. And why was there flowers coming down? And the sacred king said he is making offering to thank Subhuti for teaching him prajna. It's just a thank you. He praised him and he thanked him and he wanted flowers scattered onto him. And Subhuti replied, and he said, "But I have not said a one word of prajna. You said you praised me because of what I said of prajna, But I have not said one word of prajna. How can you say I teach prajna? To this the king replied, so it is. The Venerable Subhuti does not teach one word, and I do not hear one word. That's prajna. Nobody teaches, nobody listens. Nothing is taught and nothing heard. That's true prajna. Not only are the teachers and the teaching empty names, so too are the beings who listened, who believe and who practice this teaching. So remember what the Heart Sutra says? When the Bodhisattva comes to a real realization, the Bodhisattvas practicing prajna paramita have no obstacles in mind. Having no obstacles, they overcome fear, liberating themselves forever from its delusions, ultimately realizing nirvana. All Buddhas of the past, present and future, abiding in prajna paramita or emptiness, attain anuttara samya sambuddhi. No more obstacles. Because you see through things as they are, not as they appear to be. You see through anger as what it is, not what it appears to be. When you see A is not A, then it's truly A.